We are here. So welcome to everybody who's joining us. Lots of people still coming in. So thank you very much for that. We are here and welcome to the Connected Packaging Summit 2024. This is our big event of the year. Today we have crammed everyone into one day. So I'm hoping I'm still going to have a voice by the end of the day. We have got some amazing speakers. This is a fully live event. So not only does that give me the opportunity to have a heart attack, it does give you the opportunity to ask your questions to our amazing experts that are joining us today. And we have it jam-packed. We have just under 20 experts joining us today. We have amazing people who are going to be talking to us about authentication, innovation, connected packaging, serialization, technology, so many different things. I'm so excited. I'm not even sure which is going to be my favorite speaker, so I'd love to hear from you guys in terms of what is your favorite session afterwards. But please do use the question and answer box or even the chat box to be able to ask our panelists questions. And feel free throughout the webinar to drop in any comments or questions as well. So before we really get kicked off into some of the juicy parts, might I say, I wanted to really kind of look over where we are with connected packaging. There's been a lot of things changing. If you've seen me before, you've heard me talk about this bridge between the consumer and the brand. But there's so many elements to that and so many parts to that that has been changing. And I think this year is being so much more pivotal already, and we're only in May, in terms of connected packaging itself. So as you're aware, we have our connected packaging survey. It's a yearly survey. You can use this QR code to download that. You'll see that on many of the slides today. So do feel free to use that QR code to download the report. What we found in the survey, where we surveyed over 3,000 brands globally, is really the people who have been using connected packaging. And I say that this year is kind of more pivotal than any other because of the big changes that we're seeing. So, for example, we asked here, have you used connected packaging as a brand in the year 2023? And we saw 81.9, basically 82% of respondents have already used connected packaging, massively up. We were only just touching 50% 2 years ago. So you can see a huge change there in terms of people actually using connected packaging in 2023. Quick question from Clara. Thank you for jumping in so quickly. Yes, you will receive the slides from today. We'll be recording the whole event. So all of these will be available to you. Thank you for raising that point and for showing everyone how to use the QA box as well. So all these slides will be available. No worries at all. So as I said, 82% have used connected packaging as a brand in the year 2023. So 2024 obviously is interesting to see what's happening. But of course, we've seen the people who are using it. Then the question, of course, is why? Why are you using it? And you can see here there's a lot of different spread in terms of the reasons that connected packaging is being used. Information about the product, how to make marketing decisions, data collection, of course, that's a big one. And as we're losing first-party cookies, we also had GDPR, of course, in there as well. Data collection is becoming harder and harder for brands. And connected packaging is a fantastic way to be able to collect first-party data, preferential data, consumption data, all of these really good data points, as well as, of course, email addresses. Who's buying your product? Are they male? Are they female? What age group do they fall into? Why did they purchase the product? What do they think of your product? Do they prefer this flavor versus that flavor? Data collection is a big one. Direct interaction with customers, of course, as I talked about, and I often do that bridge between the brand and the consumer, really being able to have that direct interaction. And then education. So is it education about how to use the particular product? Is it education about something new that the brand is doing? Is it education around sustainability, share information, updates, what's happening? A really great way to be able to actually communicate with your customers, and very powerful. If you think about the product itself, for example, a bottle of Heinz ketchup, for example, you don't consume that in one day. That's something that's in your house, depending on how many hamburgers you have. That's something that's in your house 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 months. Here it's a little bit more, maybe about 4 months. I don't know the expiry date, but that is something that comes out onto the table, and there is no limit to the number of times that a consumer can scan that QR code. So you have that direct piece of packaging in your home, which as a brand is your direct ability to be able to communicate with that consumer. It's a sustainable way to connect with and educate customers. Of course it is as well. Of course, this is digital. So you're not constricted by either the space on the package or actually the ability to be able to have that communication. So you don't need to print off catalogues or lots of flyers. Of course, it's much more sustainable in that sense. Accessibility, somebody's just mentioned as well. Should that be included in one of these categories? Yes, I think it should stand as a category on its own. So thank you so much, Mr. Anonymous or Mrs. Anonymous, for bringing that point up. Definitely, I think accessibility is something we're actually going to include as its own category in next year's survey. It is a really important part. Stick around as well at 12:20 because we've got Steve, who's from Kellanova. Kellogg's going to be talking to us about their integration with NaviLens and connected packaging. So stick around, that's at 12:20 today, so we can really dive into accessibility. We also have another question. What role are AI, AR, and digital product passports playing in the sustainable efforts of leading, in the sustainability efforts, sorry, of leading brands? I think that's a great question. A lot of different things in there. AI, AR, these are big things that are happening in technology. And I think there are a lot of different ways that they can be used. We're going to see some of that. AR again is in the NaviLens presentation. AI, again, really, really important. If we go back to data and data collection, if we can then use AI to understand consumer preferences, well, then we start to be able to look at consumer behavior prediction. Then we start to be able to look at modeling from a data perspective. And then from a creative perspective, we can use AI, and we've got some really exciting projects coming up this year, which are using AI as well. And then finally, you talk about product passports. Product passports, of course, this is something that is coming down the line. We already have it on textiles, for example. This is something where, of course, digital product passports being able to be accessed. So this is something which is on the product to tell you how to recycle the product, to tell you where it's from, for example, to really give that extra information. That can be done through QR code. So, of course, there are lots of reasons why connected packaging is becoming more and more popular, and hopefully I'll dive into some of that as well. Great questions, guys, keep them coming. Here we're looking at what do you see as the drivers for connected packaging for your business, and here you can see lots of different things here. Digital product passports actually on this as well, so you can see the different breakdowns, and these are from the people who of course are answering the question around where do you use that. So that is the breakdown. So lots and lots of different things coming up here: consumer promotion, supply chain optimization, authentication. That's a really great one. We're going to be speaking with Gavin at 10:30 or 9:30 if you're in the UK very shortly. I don't know what time it is with him because he's in Australia, so it's definitely a lot later. But stick around and we can really hear a lot more about that authentication and anti-counterfeit use case for connected packaging. So the question is again, why now? Why is this something that is really coming into the fore now? We know that QR codes were available 10 years ago. And in fact, I was selling connected packaging about 8-9 years ago. And, you know, it fell quite a lot to the wayside because we didn't have the technology that we have now. So that's one of the first reasons, I think. The ability that technology allows us to directly access. So everything that we do, Appetite Creative, is around accessing directly that information. So it is about scanning the QR code using the native camera on your phone. You don't have to download an app anymore. And in the past, you did. I don't know if anyone downloaded QR code readers, but there were several of them on the market, and you needed to download that QR code reader, enable for you to then scan a QR code. That's not the case now. You literally, as you know, take out your phone, hold your camera over it, and your camera automatically identifies that is taking you somewhere else. And so technology, no apps are needed anymore. So there's a big use there. And of course, COVID really helped this push along. So we had QR codes for the passport, the vaccination passport, So that really helped bring this into the whole vernacular, so the whole population being exposed to QR codes. And then, of course, the change that brought to restaurants and bars, which means that now it's very frequent that you'll be able to look at a menu using a QR code in a restaurant or bar. Safety, traceability and security is a big reason. There's a lot of change in consumer behavior. They want to know, consumers, we want to know what has gone into this product, where this product's come from, security of the product, authentication, as we talked about. There's a lot of different uses now that I think consumers are becoming much more aware of. And of course, sustainability as well. So there are lots of changes there, both in legislation, but also just in consumer behavior, that really brings us to want to know much more about our products. The consumer is becoming more knowledgeable and therefore wants more information, and the QR code helps us to be able to do that. Legislation, I've talked about that a little bit. There's a digital product passport. There's also changes. There's a GS1 project to exchange or replace all of the barcodes to QR codes. That's a big project. That's obviously pushing a lot now into that change, bringing up QR codes. Consumer information and interaction. Brands are realizing this is that opportunity for them to have that direct interaction with their consumers, especially when you start talking about brands which are FMCG brands, which are sold in retailers. They don't have that direct interaction. And we'll talk about e-commerce and the change and into the retail space a little bit later. Gregor will be joining us at 2:30, so definitely stick around for that. But this is a really big part where the brand has that opportunity to learn and understand a lot more about their audience. And again, we'll also be talking about that data and that use of data later on at 4:20 as well. So stick around for that. Packaging is a new media and is being realised as a new media, which is really exciting. And hopefully I'm going to be able to show you some great examples of that. So that's why now. And then what about the future? What's the expectation? 96% of brands, I don't know whether that comes as a surprise or not, are going to be increasing their marketing spend in digital in 2024. 80% of the 3,000 global brands that we survey consider that connected packaging will be important to the packaging industry in the next 12 months. And as we saw, 82% have already incorporated into their plans, and 88% are going to use it in 2024. So that's also the jump. And as I said, that moves up from just under 50% only 2 years ago. So there's a huge, big change there. So the expectation is not only have we grown to a large increase, the expectation is that will increase further. And then we look at those use cases. Enhanced consumer engagement. This is where we can use AI as well, also augmented reality, also again looking at accessibility, supply chain transparency, anti-counterfeiting measures, data collection and analytics, really important. Sustainability initiatives, marketing and brand differentiation, cost reduction, and of course regulatory compliance. So lots and lots of reasons and lots of use cases, which I'm hoping over the next 12 sessions that we've got planned for you and 19 odd speakers that we're going to be able to hopefully very quickly give you a nice rounded view of each of these different use cases. And show you a little bit of the examples that we've done in the last 6 months that we quite like, and I think each of these has got something to show you. So this was a back to school campaign. The idea was to really kind of engage kids. These are young kids who want to learn. They're 6 to 10-year-olds who are wanting to engage with the brand, and the brand certainly want to engage with them. So we set up 2 different games and a set of selfies in here where using the trending games. So we looked to the region. This is actually a Saudi project. It's still live now. So we looked to the region, and there was the test tube game that was really trending. Probably you're aware of this. You have to kind of filter out the different juices to make the full juice, which then fills up the carton and reveals the carton. So you can see that. We also had juice runner, which was the first one, so collecting the different fruits that go into the juice. So there you're being able to go through the different products within the range, and there you're also being able to collect points and be added to a leaderboard. Average session length, 2 minutes. So a really nice amount of time for users to be engaging. One of the most important things I thought from this campaign, though, was the rescan rate. The rescan rate for this campaign, which actually was a 3-month campaign, but they extended to 6 months, was actually a rescan rate of 10 times per person, which means that obviously, on average, people scanned, played, came away, scanned again, played 10 times on average. So I think that's a really nice example of creating content where the consumer wants to come back and re-engage with your content. And all of the time, of course, we were collecting really important information: male, female, favourite flavours, when do they consume the juice, etc. So all that data was stored in the database. Moving next, we go to the West Indies. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey as well. So that we were over in Saudi, now we're in the West Indies. And Banga is this fruit juice, which I can show you here. So this fruit juice carton, Banga fruit juice. And this is a Schweppes brand. And basically what they wanted to do was really align themselves with the charity that they support. It's a really worthwhile charity. It's a children's orphanage charity. And they've actually been partnered with this charity for a long time. But after some research from their agency, it seemed that there was a very small amount of the population that actually knew that they did a lot of good work there. So this is what they wanted to do. They really wanted to show their fantastic efforts that they're making to the community. In addition to that, they'd also just changed their caps to the tethered caps. So they wanted to also talk to their audience about that. So what we had was some fun, interesting landing page, obviously, when you first scan the QR code, which then also had some video information around the tethered caps. In addition to that, there was also this game which people could play. And the idea about this game was that you're going to, it's a bit like Fruit Ninja. So again, looking at what was trending in the market, so what people wanted to engage and interact with. And this is Fruit Ninja. And so you had to slash your fruits and obviously avoid the dangerous objects. And by that, you're actually collecting points. For every person that played and reached a certain number of points, a donation was made to the charity. So this was a really great way to actually involve the community in the good efforts that Banga wanted to be able to do and bring to the community. So a fantastic way to be able to show what they were doing, but also kind of almost say, it's up to you guys. The more you play with this game, the more that the charity will win. So I think a really nice way to be able to show how connected packaging not only can collect data, not only talked about the sustainability angle, the new tethered caps, but also involved the community in the good work that Banga were doing. So a really nice campaign there. Again, good session length, normally on average between 2 to 3 minutes, 2.37 for this one. So again, a really nice engagement time. This one, not 10, but this one was averaging 3.5 rescans, so between 3 and 4, in terms of the average times that people would come back and rescan this particular campaign. The next campaign, I'm going to move back to Europe. So this actually campaign ran all the way from Germany right the way over to all of Eastern Europe. And this is actually an ongoing campaign in terms of the fact that we do this as a summer and winter campaign for them every year. The idea here is to be able to focus in on a trend, which we highlighted for them. So if you're in any sort of drinks business, you're probably aware that mixology is a big trend at the moment. So what we did here was we gave consumers, once they scan the QR code, the option to answer some questions. What's your favourite flavour? What flavours have you tried? What flavours haven't you tried? What's your favourite ingredient? What would be your favourite ingredient to add? What personality have you got? There was about 50 questions in the back end, of course. When a consumer comes, they only answer 5 questions. And from that, we gave them their perfect cocktail or their perfect drink for them. They were able to download that. It was personalised with their name, and they were able to download that. But what we were also able to do, and they were put into a prize draw to win a cooking appliance, which is of quite high value. So this was a really, really successful campaign. But what I felt was so interesting about this was the data that it brought us. And we were able to see different habits and different identifiers about their target audience. And one of the big things that kind of was surprising to me was being able to look at the differences between those countries. So, for example, the further east you go, the less sweet they like their juice. And so that was obviously identified by the different flavors that they declared that they liked. And also we asked them about occasions, so consumption behavior. When do you consume your fruit juice? And again, there was a big difference. Much more the further east you go, they are still consuming fruit juice for breakfast. Whereas the more west you are, this is more of something which is an afternoon or pick-me-up or treat rather than a breakfast. So again, some really insightful data around consumption, around consumer preferences. Of course, there was a lot more data in there as well, especially as I say, there was 50 questions in the back end, but some really, really interesting elements there that came out for me. Again, this is a campaign which we are preparing their new one to go live for this summer as well. So this is something which is massively ongoing. A question from the audience. Thank you very much. Samuel asks, question for Jenny. That's good because there's no one else here to answer right now. How methods of connected packaging can support improvement, social well-being of poor and low economic social groups of populations? That's an interesting one, and there's lots of different ways that this could become something that could support. So, you know, as I showed the Bangor example, where you're actually having collections to support. We also have done some really nice campaigns. Actually, they were in Africa, where we were educating, but at the same time, we were also providing different water off the back of it. So the prizes for the competition were not actually personal to the consumers, but as in this one, they were actually prizes that would help the community. We've also done things where it's been able to collect things as collect points, and the prize there again was actually to provide sports equipment to underfunded schools. So there's lots of different ways that can be done. Also, there's quite a lot of programs in food for schools, for example, or milk, I should say, for schools, where milk is provided for school children. And by completing an action from your connected packaging, you can actually donate another carton. So every carton that you buy and you interact with, the brand actually donates a carton into the Milk for Schools program as well. There's a few examples that come to the top of my head, loads and loads of different examples of where actual connected packaging can support the low socioeconomic groups of population, as you asked. Hopefully that answers some of your questions there. So going back to this is really about data. This is really about being able to understand the personality types, the personality groups, and the preferences there for people. So really, really interesting to be able to see that shift really as you kind of go across the different regions, and of course different pockets within there of different data points as well. Now I'm going to take us to the Philippines. So we have, as I said, gone all the way around the world. So this is a really, really fun campaign. This was a campaign that was using both serialized QR codes and unique QR codes. If you want to hear more about that, stick around for 3:45, because we'll have Thomas from Coing & Burr talking to us a little bit more around serialization and variable data printing. But what does all of that mean? So basically, this campaign was a fantastic campaign that ran, as I say, in the Philippines, and it ran on Good Day Milk, which is basically good bacteria in small shots. And so basically the idea here was that we wanted to be able to have an instant win. So the QR codes were printed at an SKU level on the outside of the bottles, but then underneath the cap, we actually printed a unique identifier code. So when they came to the landing page, they scanned the QR code, as I said, SKU level QR code that enables us in the back end dashboard to be able to see people with the strawberry flavour do this, people who buy the chocolate flavour are female, 18 years old, whatever. That allows us to be able to collect that data. Then to do the instant win, you need to input the code that you find from underneath the cap into the landing page which we created. There was 4 different types of prizes. There was Gcash, which is basically cashback. there was some Nintendos, there was some free products, and then of course the big prize was to win a trip to Japan, and Japan because that is where the brand is from. So thank you for listening to some of these fantastic examples. Hopefully this has given you some inspiration of some of the different use cases, and certainly that there's lots and lots of different opportunities to be able to either use connected packaging for education or use connected packaging in order to be able to deliver messaging, and certainly to be able to gain data and be able to understand your consumers better. As I said, we've got a huge lineup for us. So in just a couple of minutes, we will have Gavin Gurr, who is CEO of Lava, and he'll be joining us and he'll be talking to us about authentication. So stick around and I'll see you in a couple of minutes.